Okay. Does it look okay? Does the stream look okay?
Yeah, it looks fine.
Okay, good. Wait.
All right, we are live. It looks like finally.
Woo.
All right, happy Father's Day to everybody. We did our last one on Mother's Day, and the second one was supposed to be last Sunday, but Norman and I both totally forgot about it. So we rescheduled it today. So we're doing it on Father's Day. Hopefully, we get some of the viewers in here today, and
Well,
not all at their parents'
let's
house.
just keep doing live streams on like holidays.
Right? Oh, this is horrible. Alrighty. Let's see. Why don't we get started with some news from AlphaSpeed? I know that Daryl and you and we all kind of have been talking about bringing out a E30 can tune. Like,
Yeah,
how far are we on that?
I mean, we're still trying to like test to see if we can get consistent results. Because again, like, a we need to make sure that you can just buy a tune and just pump P30 and make sure it runs the same all the time. So that's pretty much where we're at. I don't know if Daryl has started testing with you, but yeah, that's one of the things that's coming. Canned ethanol tunes because ethanol is cheaper and it makes more power. So why not? Why not have that?
I mean, are we gonna just do E30 or are we gonna have different ones like E30, E50, like full E85?
Uh, like right now, the first one that I know that's being tested is E30, but I'm pretty sure that we can do like E30, E50, and E85. Depends on what your mods are, how much fuel you can support. Because running E85 isn't that easy. Because you need
Yeah.
more injectors and you need fuel pump and you need all these things. And an E30 tune is much more accessible, I think.
I almost feel like we need to have them sign like a book worth of directions on how to run an E30 tune.
Yeah, but it's in the works, and I think it's a good option, especially these days that gas prices are absolutely ridiculous.
Right, right. Well, I mean, with that said, I mean, like, do you have anything else to add? I know there's a lot of people asking about like the new ECU that AlphaX is producing,
Yeah.
what the ETA is going to be and things like that as well.
So I have a Genesis Coupe at the shop that I'm using to develop. I'm just making sure that works on basically every generation before I start pushing the ECU everywhere. Because of course the car already runs. It already has CAN bus. Like all the CAN bus messages that you need are integrated into the ECU. But I just want to make sure that like when it's out, it's a very bug free and painless experience because we have had to deal with basically the Haltech that everyone knows that the ETC just dies for no reason. It just has a bunch of weird glitches, and I want to make sure that like if there's a new option, make it better than that, not make the same thing.
Yeah, not let it overheat while it's sitting in the engine bay.
Yeah, and then be like stranded because the thing won't turn on. You need to get your car towed, and then it just turns on because it cooled down, and then you get even angrier.
Well, is this going to be like a standalone type, as we said before? This isn't like an OEM ECU where you can go take emissions or anything like that, right?
Yeah, it's a full standalone ECU, but yeah, it's a plug and play. You take off the stock ECU and you put the standalone in, but it's gonna be much more budget friendly. The price is probably gonna be close to 1,000, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less. We don't know yet. Depends on if we need to add more hardware for something or like need to change some things to make it work better. Right now it's working fine, but again, this is all testing, and our target price is about $1,000. So you get a fully programmable ECU for that money. You can wire a ethanol sensor to it. You can change the map sensor to whatever you want. You can run how many pounds of boost you want. You can have map switching with the traction control button, like just like the Link ECU, since it's
Hmm.
basically another aftermarket ECU.
Are you going to
And yeah,
have OTS maps, like just off the shelf, like where people don't have to have tuning knowledge to actually run the ECU right off the bat?
there is a server like there's a tune server that you can upload your tunes, and I'll upload like all the basic tunes up there so people just can grab it off there and run that at least to get it running. Like if you have bigger injectors, you can grab the big like 750cc injector map off the server and at least get the car running so you can go get it tuned. I'm not gonna tell you to get a 750cc map to just go stomp on it because you probably will blow it up. No matter what I do, you will end
Right,
up blowing it up.
right. I
But
mean, that's one of the biggest controversies right now with that whole ECU tuning software that's been, you know, potted around Facebook groups, and a lot of
yeah.
people are like, "Oh, I get to tune it myself," but really don't realize that without tuning knowledge, there is a risk behind it.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I mean, is that pretty much cover all the news so far? You know, since our last live stream.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there's no. I'm making another. Oh, look, it's right next to me. So this is another Alpha ECU. This is a 4chan. Oh, nice. I'm gonna put it in front of my face because that way it shows. A. So this is a 4chan ECU. This is basically for anything with electronic throttle and four cylinders. And I'm making a plug and play harness for 4B11 for Lancers, and I can probably do that for a bunch more cars. So after finishing the Genesis Coupe one, you probably, if you don't, if you're looking at the stream today and you used to have a Genesis, now you have another car. As long as it's not GDI, one of the 4chan ECUs or maybe one of the upcoming 8chan ECUs could work with your car if you need a an option to tune it yourself or if you need it for more mods or something like that. That's a good option.
Well, speaking of GDI, do you plan on making anything for the GDI?
So with the team I work with to make them, they're working on something for GDI. They're testing on one of those newer BMWs, I think an N54, and there might be something, but it's at least a year away. So I'm not gonna talk much about it.
Okay. All right. So we're starting with the MPI models first, and GDI may be in the future. Long.
Yeah, like I can say that I'm definitely interested in making something for GDI cars, but not yet. Like I need to make sure that all these things that we're making at this point work good, test them, make sure everything's working good, and then we can jump to more complicated things like GDI and stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds good. Um. Yeah. Let's get down to what we were supposed to talk about today. Now that we've covered all the news, with the gas prices right now, I think California has hit $10 in certain spots of California per gallon, which is quite ridiculous. Um, and you got the Biden administration saying, "Hey, why don't you go out and buy electric cars instead? Because gas is so expensive." Um,
Mhm.
Now, is that a viable option? You know, like, what do you think about that? Internal
Well,
combustion versus electric.
uh, personally, I'm usually one to like I like progress. I like the idea of all these things, but I think everyone's jumping too hard on the EV bandwagon because so EVs they're like the one way you can have an EV that makes sense is if you live in a house, you need to live in a single family home and you need to have solar panels or some way to generate your own electricity. If you're buying electricity off the grid, it's not really an improvement from an efficient standpoint because EVs are heavier. You need to move all that electricity into your car, which electric engines are more efficient than gasoline engines, but like the power company still burns a lot of or coal, or they burn natural gas, or maybe they have like a few like generation stations, but they're usually not the norm, and you're not really lowering emissions that much. And yeah, like you need to have your own kind of energy generation. My dad, Father's Day, he got solar panels this last week, and now it makes sense for him. I told him you could buy an EV or you could buy my favorite option is a plug-in hybrid because On plug-in hybrids, you get the advantages of an EV. Like most people that want EVs, they usually drive less than 20 miles a day.
Right.
So you can get a plug-in hybrid, which usually has the range to do your daily 10-mile trip both ways. And then just if you need a car that goes a long distance, it still has a gas engine, and the battery is much smaller. So the environmental impact of a plug-in hybrid is significantly lower because you have a 7 kilowatt battery versus a 95 kilowatt battery like the plaid. That's how you say it. The Model S plaid.
Right. Right.
That thing has a gigantic battery, and batteries are very evil, to put it that way. There's been a bunch of studies, and they say that like you need to have an EV for at least 5 years to offset your environmental impact of manufacturing the car. And most people don't have a car that long, especially these days.
Right. I think I
So,
change cars almost every year or 2 years.
so yeah. I personally, I got a normal hybrid because I live in a condo, and I think it's great. I love the thing. It usually makes like 56 mpg. I pump for like the gas tank is tiny. I pump $40 of gas, and then I use it for 3 weeks, and like I think that's better because the battery on that thing is I think it's like 1.4 kilowatts. So the battery is 85 pounds, so it barely used any of these all these bad cobalt things from cobalt mines and lithium and all that shit. It uses a tiny amount, and I get a lot of efficiency out of it. Like, uh, it's much less environmental impact and much more like use. It's gonna last longer because it doesn't depend completely on the battery, and yeah, it's like I think that hybrids are the way to go. You can capture energy when you're braking. That's another thing that's great about hybrids. You can use the gas engine in the highway where gas engines are already very efficient. My Durango gives me 33 mpg on the highway because gas engines on the like on the highway speeds when they're steady, they barely use any fuel. So you can just switch over to gasoline on the highway, use it when it's most efficient, and when you're coming off a stoplight or something, use the electric engine, and then you capture all that energy when you're braking on the highway, so you can use that on the street. And I think that's a better trade-off than just pumping a bunch of cobalt and lithium to make all these batteries, and then like after 7 years you start having all these weird battery problems, because I know that this is happening. Like a bunch of old Teslas are now like either they light on fire on their own and then you can't put out the fire because lithium fires are horrible, or the battery starts dying and the thing freaks out and you're stranded and you have no car. When you have a hybrid car, like even if the electrical system fails, it'll still move.
Yeah, that's one thing I've been reading quite a lot lately with electric cars. Like I think the latest article I read was on the Hyundai Ioniq 5 in Korea. They got in an accident and the car caught on fire and killed everybody inside because when the car caught on fire, all the electronics stopped working and they couldn't open the doors.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean,
that's
that's some horror story that you're hearing. You know, it's like, okay, if the whole car's electric, the thing shuts down. One, you can't put the fire out, and two, you can't open the doors. Like,
that's the freakiest thing. Yeah, I like I thought the fire thing wasn't that big, but now I understand why it's a big deal because I've seen a few electrical fires like from lithium based things, and you can't put those out. Like the only way to put out a lithium fire is you drop the car into a fucking pool and you leave it for
yeah,
24 hours because like just a fire truck, it pumps it full of water and the fire goes out in like 10 minutes, it just lights itself back up. So that's some scary stuff. And in my hybrid thing, like since the battery's tiny, you could probably just douse the battery and it'll just stop, and maybe the fire is going to be like really small.
I
But
know there
when
are
you
cars that are being researched right now and developed. I know Hyundai did this back in the day too. Was hydrogen cars.
yeah,
Um, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, you can make hydrogen bombs technically, right? You can make a hydrogen engine.
Yeah, like Toyota's done like internal combustion hydrogen engines, which is pretty interesting, I think. But I think the long-term future of hydrogen would be like hydrogen EV, basically, like the typical like the Toyota Mirai. It's not internal combustion, so you pump the hydrogen in, and it turns that hydrogen into electricity, and then uses that electricity to move the electric motor. Uh, you can the fun thing about hydrogen is you can do both. You can do internal combustion and you can do the electric conversion. And it's probably gonna be end up like I think the most energy efficient one is the electric version, but it all depends on what we can end up doing with hydrogen. Because right now the way you get hydrogen usually is electrolysis. You know about that? You know something about that? Uh, you need to take water and basically take the hydrogen out, and that requires energy. So what they tell you, and this is true, just put that energy into a battery and use it from the battery. So you end up back at the electric spot until making hydrogen isn't like economically cheaper than just moving the electricity from a power plant to your car. uh, Hydrogen doesn't make sense. I do like the idea of it, but I think that's a giant problem that is going to take some time to solve.
Well, it really sounds like whatever the future is going to hold. I mean, it's not here yet. These electric cars still have their slew of issues.
Yeah,
Um, and the fact that not even just the whole fire thing, but over time, you're every time you charge, you're pretty much decreasing the life of your battery. You're pretty much decreasing the capacity of your battery every time you charge it.
yeah, because they just the battery breaks down when it moves current,
Yeah.
and
So, like, does it
over
even make
time
sense to buy a used EV? Let's say 10 years down the road, you want to try your hand at a Tesla Plaid model, and by the time you get it 10 years down the road, it's probably making 100 horsepower less.
yeah, and yeah, that's the thing that electric cars end up in landfills like that. Like their designated life is just to work for however long it could work, and then just throw it away. And so you want to fix a 2013 Model S with a bad battery, you're gonna spend $20,000 on a battery. That doesn't make sense when you can buy like a fucking 95 Tercel, and it gives you like 40 something mpg, and the most expensive fix that's gonna be the engine is like 300 bucks. And
I mean,
it,
comparing a Tercel to a Tesla is a big
uh
comparison. But yeah,
I'm talking strictly from a like save money on fuel standpoint,
right.
not much else. But yeah, like this is a really old car that's fuel efficient and extremely cheap to keep running versus this new car that it's gonna start breaking down everywhere, and it's extremely expensive to maintain. Uh, what I was gonna say, my other personal opinion, you should have a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid. And if you have like a very small commute, I have an electric scooter. It's literally an electric like kick scooter, but it's electric. And when I need to go to, like the mall or someplace close, I just use that. That so the motors are way smaller, the battery's way smaller. It's a 5.6 amp hour, something like that battery. It's a very small battery, so it has even less environmental impact than my Nero EV, and it gets me to the place just as good. And since it's much smaller, you need a lot less power to move me on a scooter, and I think that's much less. And like to make a scooter, you don't need all the resources you need to make a car, and a lot of people use their cars to drive like a quarter mile to the fucking grocery store, and that's just a waste of energy and space. You have all these cars crowding the street when you just need to go down the block to get some milk. You could use a smaller personal transport vehicle is what I think that should be the focus for cities and like urban areas that people need to move like less than a mile. You should get a small vehicle that moves you over to where you want to go and takes as least space as possible, and it weighs the less it can weigh, because electric cars are extremely heavy. And that's it. That's another thing. That's another externality. That's how they say of electric cars. They're so heavy that the roads are going to start getting worse faster than they already do. And as far as I know, the roads everywhere are getting pretty bad. And the electrics are not helping this because the heavier the car is, the more wear is on the road, and the easier the road breaks up and turns into a pile of garbage.
Right, right. I mean, it seems like there's going to be more problems than what it helps, if you think about it. And I mean, with that said, I mean, I know we were focusing a lot on MPG and things like that, but we're both running um, a website or a product, focus more on performance. So why
Yeah.
don't we focus on the performance side of things? Like, what do you think about the EV performance? I mean, if you think about what the Tesla Plate is doing and what the Tesla Roadster is supposed to do when it comes out, it and
Whenever
all
it
these,
comes out.
supercars, hypercars are all going into the whole electrification, and it's almost like they're getting to a place where internal combustion engines just physically cannot go.
Yeah. So my opinion on at least the performance side, I think that Lamborghini and Ferrari and McLaren, everyone's going the hybrid route. If you see them, Lamborghini made the Sion. It's it's a hybrid. I think it's V8. I'm not sure the gas engine what it has, but I know that the electric system is I think on the rear axle, and instead of using a battery, it uses a supercapacitor. The thing with a supercapacitor is that it charges much faster than a battery. It also discharges, like, the capacity is not that big, but if you're cornering, the thing can fully charge when you go into the corner and then boost you out of the corner. So you get a giant push of torque coming out of the corner, and then it just goes back to a gas engine. The next time you brake, it charges up the supercapacitor and it gives you another boost. So I think that's a great way to use it. It's basically a power adder that you can get a few more MPGs out of, because that power boost when you're coming out of the corner, instead of relying on the engine completely, you have an electric motor helping you out. The McLaren Artura, I think that's a pretty cool idea too. And again, it has like a 20-mile EV range, and it's used for the same thing. It helps you in the low speed, like, torque delivery when you need to, like, a push to get you going. That's the best part that electric motors work, and I think that's why I say that things just should be hybrid. Because when you're at a stoplight, you don't need the engine to be running. If you have a battery that's big enough, you can keep your AC running, turn off the gas engine, and when you come off the light, you can just use the electric motor, get it up to a running speed, and then turn on the combustion engine. So McLaren's doing that with the Artura. Lamborghini is doing that with the Sion. Ferrari, the 289, I think it's, or 298, the new two-door mid-engine car.
Whatever number they like to put on there, yeah.
It's
Everything's a number
also
for them.
it's also hybrid, and it's again one of these systems that helps you on deliver torque. So what I see that also everyone's doing is downsizing the engine. Everyone's going down to a V6 twin turbo and sticking an electric engine. So you've got these supercars. Like, I know that new Ferrari has. I know it's more than 600. I don't know if it was between like 600 and 800. But you have a V6 with a bunch of power, and it's a supercar is making like 23 mpg city. So what's not to like about that? You have a car that's extremely fast, and it's still kind of fuel efficient. As more people go into this, like, I believe that the Mustang should have this. Everyone knows I have a Mustang now. Uh, you could stick like an electric motor on the rear differential and just gets a bit more range, a bit more torque out of it without killing off the internal combustion engine. And basically, the internal combustion engine is your big battery, because you pump it with fuel and you use it to charge up the electrical system and charge in case you don't charge it up in your home. And yeah, I think having hybrids is the best of both worlds, especially at the point that we're at. Everyone thinks that we can develop all this technology by 2030. I don't think it's that possible. Like, I think the 2030 fully electric goal that many governments have set up is pretty unachievable.
I think the whole Mustang thing, there is definitely talks of them doing a hybrid setup. I know that. There's been leaks and things like that where, they're talking it could be a hybrid with a four cylinder, it could be a hybrid with a 5.0 V8. I mean, that's kind of exciting to hear, seeing
Yeah.
a hybrid version of these sports cars coming out. Um, I I personally love new technology. It's just like having like simple things like Apple CarPlay even. Like that's really exciting for me. And when I see these electric cars coming out and they're doing like 1.90 to 60, it's mind blowing. One, I mean, do you really need a car that fast? But two, it's just the fact that these things have instant power like that. I just feel like you said, combining the two technologies, electric and internal combustion, seems like the best possible outcome for any type of performance car. Because
Hmm.
electric cars, yeah, they have flat torque and everything, but they do tend to lack the top end. It seems.
Yeah. Uh, just a quick. That's because so electric cars you have like a maximum operating voltage, and the voltage directly relates to the amount of RPMs it can spin. So once you get close to that like maximum RPMs, like an electric motor has a like the the part that receives the electricity and then the things that spins and has the shaft that basically outputs your power. Once you're getting close to that voltage, it's basically reaching equilibrium because when electric engines are most efficient when the shaft is not spinning and the other thing is powered, they're going to give maximum torque because it starts spinning that thing. But once the like the it's a bunch of stuff about magnetic fields and stuff, and I didn't study electrical engineering, so I'm not going to talk much about that, but I do know that the closer like this thing is spinning in relation to the voltage that's being applied, the less torque you make. So they always have that upper limit, and gas engines don't have that upper limit because they just want to keep spinning up to like whatever RPM. I mean, they have gears, so that's usually what keeps you being able to make more and more. Keep going faster and faster because you can just shift gear into the next gear into the next gear, and all these electric cars don't really have gears. You could put gears on them, but that makes them less efficient and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I think it's just at the end of the day, you can't discount internal combustion engines just because there is this new technology of electric engine coming out. It just seems like
Yeah,
if we find a good way to mix the two together, we're going to have the best low end and the best top end at the same time. And in a way,
and
it
the
kind of
best
scares me
range.
with the amount of power that these things put down and the amount of idiots we have on the road that may own these cars.
The who?
So yeah, I mean, I think um I I think our viewers do want to know, like, how do we go about tuning these cars in the future? Let's say, in the future you buy a full electric Mustang, God forbid if that happens. Like, how would we go about tuning that? Like, is there even a possibility? Do we just add more batteries? Do we turn up the voltage? Like, how does that work?
So you technically, this is technically speaking. Again, I'm no electrical engineer, so I might just be lying. Confirm with your local electrical engineer if what I'm saying is true. Uh, you could technically add batteries, but that's really complicated because the batteries are usually engineered into the chassis. All the wiring is integrated into the chassis. Uh, all these things are like already like set in stone. And I know that you can like usually this is just like gas cars. They are over engineered from the factory. So you can probably tell the battery controller to like run at a bit higher voltage, put a few more amps through all the system and get a few extra horsepower. But the thing with electricity is we've been using electricity I think longer than internal combustion engines, so everyone knows how to calculate what size, what thickness cable you need to move these many amps. How long does it need to be? How thick do the coils in the engine need to be to hold these many amps? So they're usually close, like their design is very close to the limit, and like You know that internal combustion engines, sometimes you have some internal combustion engines that can make twice the power they make from the factory.
Right.
The Genesis is an example. But with electric engine motors, it's a bit more like grim, because everyone knows what that motor, like, it has these many turns. The copper wiring inside of it is this thick. You can run these many amps through it. That's it. If you run more, like, they'll tell you, like, if you run more for this amount of time, it'll start melting. And like, we've been working with electricity so long that we just know these things. You can calculate, like, with the turns and the thickness of the windings and the material they're made out of, you can know how much it's going to hold at what temperature for how long. So, like, I don't know if I said that in the last live stream, but the car factory, like the OEM, is going to make it at the limit. They're not going to spend more money for fun. They're not just going to put a really good motor in it and then not use it, because that doesn't make economic sense. They want to make the most money out of every component in the car. So yeah,
So
I
what you're
think that
telling
may
us is most likely it won't be able to get extra power as much as we do with internal combustion engines.
yeah, and if you do, you might just shorten the life of it like another 2 years, and then you have a car that already lasts maybe 10 years, and you're going to shorten the life another 2 years. It's like, what's the trade-off here? I think the best way to incorporate all this electric stuff into cars is, like, someone make a hybrid kit, like a useful hybrid kit, so you can, like, get all these things we talked about, extra torque, and just put them on your older car. That way you don't need to make a new car to be hybrid. You just, like, my idea is that someone makes a hybrid kit, you put it on your internal combustion car, you get like twice the mpg and a boost of torque. And I think that would be like the silver bullet to make everything better.
Have you seen the? Now that you mentioned that, that reminds me. There was a hybrid like wheel that you could put on your car.
I have seen something like, uh, so you can buy a wheel with a motor in it
Yeah.
in on AliExpress, but it's like the motor's really not powerful. Like, our motor technology is apparently isn't that great yet. You can't move a car with that, but if that technology moves forward, that could be an option. The problem here with making a electric wheel is that you add a lot of unsprung weight, and we all know that unsprung weight's terrible.
I'm trying to look it up right now, but I remember seeing this company testing on a Honda Civic, and they put their motored wheels on the back. So
On
essentially,
the
it
back, yeah,
became like an all-wheel drive car. And the
yeah,
rears were, powered by electric motors inside the wheels.
yeah. That that would be an option if it comes to light. Like, that would be pretty cool. Just turn your car into a hybrid and get all these advantages we talked about.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you, I without even being able to look it up right now, it was pretty ugly. But I mean, yeah, the concept of it was pretty cool.
But yeah, I think I think that's also like, if someone makes something like this, you don't have to make as much electric cars, and you can just upgrade old cars, so you're using a lot less material from the earth. Again, this is all comes back to, like, what is sustainable and what isn't, and I think that keeping cars on the road and making those more efficient is much more sustainable than just making a bunch of new cars to replace these old cars, because you're just gonna scrap a bunch of cars.
Well, I don't think the politicians or the car companies will agree with you on that one because that means it's less money made for them.
Yeah, this is a very personal opinion of mine, but the theory that, like, you can have infinite growth in every single company is absolutely crazy. Like, everything has a limit, and people should, like, stop focusing on the, hey, let's make more money every year forever. You can't really do that. Like, the
Yeah,
company needs to do the best they can at what they work with, and that's it.
yeah, but nobody's satisfied at what they have currently, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that was a pretty good discussion when it comes to internal combustion engines versus electric. I mean, I think we all agree that hybrid is probably going to be the best um, form of electrification when it comes to performance of the car and also the MPG part of it too. Um, I want to see if I can open up for some questions. Like, it doesn't have to be the whole internal combustion versus electric related. Like, if you have questions on alpha speed or tunes or anything like that, we can take that as well. It is Father's Day, so our live stream, we don't have too many people on here right now, but we'll if even if you're not part of the live stream today, if you see this video later on down the road and you have some questions you want to ask, you can definitely ask that in the chat or the comments section, and we will answer them in the next live stream. Um, Other than that, yeah, I think that pretty much concludes today. Um, we were going to have a giveaway from Super Clean. They were going to give away the some of their cleaning kits for one of our viewers. But like I said, we don't have that high of a viewership today. So I'm actually going to open it up to um, everybody that actually sees this video until the end of this month. So this is what June 19th today. So until June 30th, we're gonna accept all the questions and comments under our video, and Norman is going to choose who he's going to send the super clean pack to. So yeah, if you have questions, if you have comments, if you want to add anything to what we talked about today, make sure you comment on there. Okay, well, there was one question that was asked just now. I think this is definitely an inside joke, but I'll ask anyway because it's funny. It says, "Ask Norman when he is putting a trans in the GT350."
That has to be Harold. That has to be Harold or Alec. So it already has one. Screw you guys.
Alrighty. Well, I think we could wrap up for the day. I hope this brings a little bit of
I
a
hope
brainstorming to everybody to see
I hope I
where.
convince you about the electric versus hybrid debate. I think I have the best idea. I win. Screw EVs. Hybrids are the way to go.
I honestly, I think EVs are kind of scary. Like this point that I pointed out before about the whole fire and not being able to operate the car when the car goes down. Like, you can't even unlock your doors. Like, come on, that's scary.
Yeah,
I don't want to be
and then
burned alive in a car.
then the fact that the like this is something we also failed to mention. I'm just gonna talk about it really quick. Like the car company that makes your EV can just shut down your car over like 4G. That's been
Right,
happening.
right.
Like
Yeah, they do have full control over your car at any given time.
that's some Orwellian stuff that I'm
Yeah, I
not
mean, I
liking.
think I think Elon Musk said his Teslas, he calls them his Teslas, of course. His Teslas driving around the world could map out the world within 48 hours.
Oh, that's so cool that he can know where everyone lives and do whatever he wants with your
Yeah,
car.
and he could map out the world. Like, it sounds cool that you can map out the world that quickly, but at the same time, it means he can sit there and figure out where everybody's been, where everybody's going.
Just for
Yeah, I
fun,
mean, invasion of privacy, right?
Yeah. Again, that's why I say just make the old cars better, make them more efficient. You can easily. I think that's going to be the future, but it'll take some time.
All right. Well, thanks for joining the live stream today. Hopefully next time we do a live stream, it's not on a holiday and we don't forget like last time. If you guys have anything to add, if you guys want us to cover a certain subject next time, we'll definitely leave that in the comments as well. And yeah, make sure you suck up to Norman if you want free super clean product.
Right. See
All
you
right.
guys. Thanks
Yeah,
for
I think
having me as
we could
always.
say goodbye, and this is the end.